Final day in court for the family of this Jacksonville teacher brutally beaten to death in her Northside home almost 2 years ago.
All I can see is the horrific image of my mother dead on her kitchen floor.
Adam Lawson pleaded guilty to the murder of Deborah Liles. He covered his ears as her children testified about her death. Lawson, an ex-convict, struck a plea deal with prosecutors to avoid the death penalty in exchange for 2 life sentences in prison.
Liles, a beloved Duval County music teacher, was killed during a 2017 home invasion robbery at her Panama Park home. News 4 Jax reporter Scott Johnson was in the courtroom, and he's joining us live from Duval County Courthouse. Scott, with this plea, Lawson also avoided sitting through a trial.
That's kind of what he did, Mary. He would tune out what he didn't want to hear, plugging his ears for much of it. And when her image was on the screen, in fact, almost the entire hearing today, his head was straight at the floor. Adam Lawson walked into court to tell the judge he has made a deal. Life in prison for a guilty plea. And then he sat and watched Deborah Liles' children take the stand and talk about the day Lawson broke into her Northside home and beat her to death with a golf club and frying pan.
How convenient that he doesn't have to look at what he did to another human being. He did not just kill my mom, he slaughtered her, he destroyed her.
As Liles' children painfully told the horrific details, Lawson sat noticeably plugging his ears with his head down, shaking, almost shivering for roughly an hour. Then the family showed this video they produced of their mom, and he continued looking at the floor, still shaking, knowing that he was going to prison for the rest of his life because the family agreed to a plea deal where the death penalty was taken off the table.
If we went to trial and Adam Lawson were sentenced to death, it would still not be close to justice because the state is never going to end his life the way he ended my mother's. What he is being offered today is mercy.
Liles' children are received the judge handed down 2 life sentences. They asked that Lawson spend a lot of it in solitary. And even though Lawson is now going to jail for the rest of his life, their children still think that Lawson hasn't told them everything, that he's maybe covering up for other people in this crime. Coming up tonight at 6, we'll be talking to their children outside of the courtroom about why they think Lawson is still covering up something. That's coming up at 6. For now, we're live at the Duval County Courthouse. Scott Johnson, Channel 4, the local station.
Scott, his demeanor in court with his fingers in his ears, his head down, has he acted like this before in court, or was this all because of the sentencing being handed down?
Well, I thought that at the time, Mary, that he didn't want to see or hear it, and that may be the case. But I talked to the state attorney's office afterwards about this. They say he has been like this a lot in the entire time they have dealt with him. Mary, back to you.
Scott Johnson reporting to us live. Thank you, Scott.